Hi, my name is Sam. Welcome back. If you haven't watched my video, I Go to New York, I highly recommend you check it out. This video will also help you improve your English, whether it's vocabulary, accent, or useful phrases. I'm sure you'll love it. I'm standing at my hotel window, sipping my last cup of New York coffee, watching the sun rise over the city that never seems to rest. The streets below are already buzzing, yellow cabs darting like bees, street vendors setting up their carts, and the faint sound of sirens echoing in the distance. I couldn't help but smile. New York had given me memories I'd treasure forever. The dazzling lights of Times Square, the calming strolls through Central Park, and the heart-racing views from the Empire State Building. But today was a new chapter in my adventure. Chicago, the Windy City, was calling, and I was ready to answer. I had a decision to make. Should I fly to Chicago, take the train, or embark on a road trip? Chicago is about 790 miles from New York, and each option had its charm. A flight would take about 2 hours, saving time, while the train offered a scenic journey of around 19 hours. Driving was tempting for its freedom, but would take around 12 to 14 hours. I ultimately chose to fly. The idea of soaring above the clouds and arriving quickly was irresistible. Plus, I could spend more time exploring Chicago rather than being on the road. As the plane descended into O'Hare International Airport, I caught my first glimpse of Chicago, a sprawling city cradled by the vast blue waters of Lake Michigan. The cityscape was dotted with towering skyscrapers, each competing for attention against the backdrop of an endless lake. My cousin Tim was waiting for me at the arrivals gate, a big grin on his face. He had lived in Chicago for years and was eager to show me his city. We jumped into his car, and as we drove through the streets, Tim gave me a running commentary. "That's the Willis Tower," he said, pointing to the skyline, "and wait till you try our deep dish pizza." We stopped at a cozy diner near his place for breakfast. The smell of sizzling bacon and freshly brewed coffee was intoxicating. I ordered a stack of fluffy pancakes with maple syrup, while Tim opted for a classic omelet. As we ate, he laid out the plan for the day. "We're hitting the big spots first," Tim said. "Millennium Park, the Art Institute, and then the Navy Pier." "Visiting all the places you are mentioning," I said. "Millennium Park, the Art Institute of Chicago, and the Chicago River Walk is possible in a single day?" "Yes, but it depends on how much time you spend at each location and how well you plan your day," Tim said. "For example, I purchased tickets online to save time, like for the Art Institute and Willis Tower." "Oh, that's cool," I replied. Our first stop was Millennium Park, and it felt like stepping into an open-air gallery. The centerpiece was, of course, the Cloud Gate, or as everyone calls it, the Bean. Its reflective surface made it feel alive, mirroring the towering skyline, fluffy clouds, and the sea of tourists posing for pictures. I spent ages marveling at it, snapping selfies and trying to find our reflections in its funhouse-like distortions. Oh, The park was alive with energy, street performers, kids running around, and couples sharing quiet moments by the fountains. Next, we walked to the Art Institute of Chicago, one of the oldest art museums in the country. Tim told me it was home to some of the most famous pieces in the world, and he wasn't kidding. I stood face to face with Van Gogh's self-portrait and gazed at Monet's water lilies, feeling like I had stepped into an art history textbook. The museum was huge, and every room seemed to hold something more impressive than the last. It wasn't just a museum, it was a journey through time and imagination. By lunchtime, we were at Navy Pier, a bustling spot on Lake Michigan's edge. The view was incredible, sparkling blue water stretching out as far as the eye could see, boats drifting lazily, and a Ferris wheel turning gently in the breeze. We grabbed Chicago-style hot dogs from a vendor, loaded with mustard, onions, relish, and pickles. It was messy, delicious, and everything I'd hoped for. After lunch, we explored the pier's attractions, from quirky souvenir shops to lively street performances. No trip to Chicago is complete without a visit to the Willis Tower, and my cousin made sure we didn't miss it. The sky deck was an experience like no other. Standing on a glass ledge over 1,300 feet above the ground, I felt a mix of awe and slight terror as I looked down at the tiny cars and people below. The view stretched for miles, and Tim pointed out landmarks like Soldier Field and the Chicago River. It was a moment of pure exhilaration, one I'll never forget. As the sun began to set, we took a leisurely stroll along the Chicago River Walk. The water reflected the city lights, creating a magical atmosphere. We sat on a bench, watching water taxis glide by and listening to the murmur of the crowd. The city seemed to come alive at night, with its illuminated skyscrapers casting shimmering patterns on the river. Tim shared stories about Chicago's history, from the Great Fire to its rise as a cultural hub. Dinner was a grand affair at a local pizzeria. Tim insisted I try Chicago's legendary deep dish pizza, and it didn't disappoint. The buttery crust, gooey cheese, and rich tomato sauce were a feast for the senses. Back at his apartment, we chatted late into the night. Chicago had welcomed me with open arms, and I was already falling in love with its unique charm and character. As I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but think about how each city tells its own story. New York had been electric, but Chicago was warm and soulful, offering a completely different rhythm. Did you enjoy the journey with me? Let me know what city you'd like me to visit next by leaving your suggestions in the comments. I hope this story has helped you improve your English. Looking forward to sharing more adventures with you.